Hi, my name is Hannah, and I just want to share some of my story with you. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and I grew up in a family that was in ministry, and I just loved Jesus from a really young age. And as a kid, I just was full of life and had so much joy. When I was about eight years old, I began experiencing abuse, and it started off as just being verbal, and then over time it became sexual, and I was forced into doing things that I never thought I would do. And because of the environment I was growing up in, I didn't feel like there was room for my struggle, and even in the church I felt like I had to perform, and that grace was for the unsaved, but since I knew Jesus, that there wasn't really grace for me. So as the years went on, the silence and the fact that I had told no one began to just really affect me. And I began to believe every lie that was spoken over me by my abuser, that no one was ever gonna love me, and that there was really no hope for me, like that this was my fault, that this is just who I am. And the way that I coped with that was to self-harm and cut myself, because that's what I thought I was worth. And after years and years of just continuing to struggle with self-harm, and even sometimes cutting up like 100 times in one night, I was trying to feel something, and I didn't really believe that God was good because of what had happened to me when I was younger. I didn't really believe that He was present with me and that He loved me. And so I was just in this cycle of survival and believing that I was a victim of everything that happened to me, and that was the best my life could be. And it got to a point where I just had decided I was gonna end my life. And in that whole process, God saved me. I remember when the police showed up at the house I was living in, and I just remembered, like, this is not what I want my legacy to be. This is not what I want the end of my story to be. And God began to really do some deep stuff in my heart, and really everything began to change when I saw Him in my pain. And I saw Him. He showed me where He was in those most traumatic memories of my life. He showed me that He was always with me, and that He even had emotion about what happened. He cared, and He had sympathy for me. He was with me, and there's something about when the Father comes in and shows that He was there, that you can endure anything. I realized that I was basing my identity, and I was basing who I was off of an event that was not orchestrated by God. And I believed that this was who I was, but that was not what God intended for me. And so as He began to show me the things He had for me, I began to realize Jesus' victory paid for mine. And I didn't want to be a victim of my story for the rest of my life. He gave the person a choice who abused me, but then He gave me a choice where I could extend to them the forgiveness and the healing that I received through Him. And I could give it to them, and I could release heaven and goodness into a situation where evil should have been glorified. And as this just took place, I began to realize in our culture, it is so glorified to be a victim of our stories. It is so glorified to just survive. And this is all the things that I've survived. But then I began to realize, like, how much more powerful is it to not say, I endured these horrible things in my life, but actually, I overcame things that I should not have been able to overcome. And I'm doing things now that I should not be able to do. And it's because of what Jesus did. It's because I partnered with Him, and I made a choice that I was gonna walk out of that I was gonna walk into the freedom and the fullness of what He paid for me to have. And now I'm totally new. And He's restored every single part of my story. I have experienced the goodness of God. And in John 10:10, it says that the enemy comes to steal and kill and destroy. The enemy wanted my life to be over. But God came that I might have life, and life abundantly. And now I can walk in the abundance that He paid for me to have. And I just want to encourage you that I have seen in my life firsthand, I have seen that there is nothing that He will not restore. I just want to speak into you today that if you are walking through any of the things that I talked about, if you have experienced abuse, if you are struggling with addiction and self-harm or even suicide, that there is hope for you, that there is hope in your story, and that it is the heart of God to restore everything that's been taken from you, everything that has happened in your life, and that he can make good and he can make beauty out of all of it. Healing can happen, and you can see that he really is good. And there is hope for you, that there is so much left of your story.